Hello, Niels Harbors fans. I'll be talking a little bit about municipal fire departments today that you might have seen in my Niels Harbors videos. And we have two main units here, of course. We have the utility SUV, or how shall I say, the command vehicle for that particular department. And of course, here we have the chief, our fire captain, standing there with some of the equipment that you might find in his truck. A little fire extinguisher there and a flashlight. This piece here, of course, goes on the AST in the back, which stands for the alarm support trailer. And there's, of course, some equipment that you would find, a bullhorn for shouting instructions to men, or to sort of shout instructions to just about anybody, whether they were part of the department or not. And over down here, we have a metal cutting saw, a fire axe. In the back, you can see the little medical kit attached to it. If we turn it around, you can even see that he has breathing apparatus equipment in case there was sort of noxious fumes wherever he was sent to. That's part of the equipment found in the storage compartment there. And we turn it to the back, you can see there's a searchlight for fighting fires at night, and I'm going to dare to liberate it. I'm going to pull it off here, and hopefully, there we go, it came out all right. You can just see in the back there that there's a hose. That would be for fighting, small little fires that they didn't want to grow into great fires. Very fire-conscious community, and we even had a video where they have their celebration of the firefighters in their community. A large section of Guidance economy is wood products, and they're sort of being sold to other markets. So these guys sort of protect that economy by making sure that fire doesn't eat the woods. And not to mention, fire can also destroy communities if it's close to the woods. So they are very important in the region of Guidance. And that's essentially it. Now, you might say to yourself, oh, I recognize that trailer. It's from set 7942. And absolutely, that's where I got that trailer from. And again, I've explained, if it was useful, looked good, and made sense in my community, and a Lego designer had built it, I had a lot of work to do. And if I could take that shortcut and take something that was already great, I did so. And I do like that trailer very, very much. All right, that's enough of our little command car and AST. Bye, Chief. You can even have your stuff back. I want to talk a little bit about a mock. I'm going to talk about the centerpiece of any fire station, and that is the, I think I'll bring that a little closer if you don't mind. There we go, that looks a little better. I'm going to talk about the engine or pumper and what its job is. Well, its main job is to have enough equipment in it to sort of handle on its own any sort of small, maybe one bedroom sized fire, or something that is manageable, if you like. It has a large tank of its own water. It's outfitted to carry plenty of firemen. As you can see, two gentlemen sort of strapped in there at the back. And it has large equipment doors, both here and, as you saw on the other side of the engine, we had some smaller equipment doors here and here. And of course, your larger hoses, which would attach to fire hydrants. And then this truck itself, its fire engineer, the engineer of the truck, would make sure through these controls here to pump that water into those trucks, or again from the fire hydrant itself. Now, you may be asking, sort of, the gentleman at the back, I've never seen a fire truck like that where gentlemen are sort of strapped into the back. And well, in my day, they weren't even strapped into the back. When I was a boy, firemen just jumped on the back and away they went. And I'm sort of hearkening back to that idea because honestly, it looked really fun to do, and I just wanted to sort of pay it an homage. Now, of course, these gentlemen, you can't see the straps, of course, but that's sort of how they are safe, and they're not going to fall off and hurt themselves. But I sort of wanted to go back to a time when firemen were running to a truck, jumping on and flying down the street, and it just looked good, and it was kind of cool and fun, and that's why I did it. I'm going to talk a little bit about this. One thing I didn't want to do is the storage compartment here is an actual storage compartment. You can actually fit things inside it in one of these large baskets. I'll put that up for you now. And that's where you put some of the equipment. As you can see, I put a breathing apparatus in at the moment. When I was doing this project, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of time. I did not have time to go searching through my spare Lego pieces every 5 minutes to set up a set. I wanted things to be a quick setup so that I could have a quick shoot and get back to the other parts of my actual life that were going on at the time, which I will not bore you with. But these are the kind of things that I would put in. Wrenches, axes, pickaxes, again, lights for firefighting at night, your never to be forgotten fire extinguisher for a very important piece of equipment. So all that equipment would fit inside the vehicle. And I did that with every vehicle. Was it appropriate to that vehicle? Would that vehicle have it? And then when I set up my fire scene, as I did with the burning down of the cannery, I had all the little tiny bits and props that I needed to make the shoot work. So that was sort of how that came about. Now, as for the mock of the truck, why the pumper? Well, very simple. Of course, with the set 6002, which you can still see there, I loved the cab. It looked like it belonged on a fire engine pumper. So I just made one. I just mocked it and put on the equipment that I wanted. There's some extra hoses, of course, in the back here. There's a ladder. I just want it to be that typical fire engine. And Lego has not made one. Lego has made things that kids can play with. And that makes sense because they want children to buy their products. But in my sort of representation of a realistic world, I needed a fire engine pumper, and so I made that mock. But I can't say enough about 60002. Without that set, which I bought multiple times, which was a fantastic set, which this is 85% a representative of, and still a little farther away. There we go. What a great set. Kids would love to play with it. I saw the piece potential. It was a sturdy set. Again, fitting multiple firemen. There just was so much that was good about this set. However, as I turn it around, and I'll have to bring it back in a bit, center it a bit. You can see, again, I put in some different things on the side here for equipment. I put up a connection hose so that it could connect to a fire hydrant. It would have a very limited tank. Why? Because it was also an aerial truck. And as you can see, it has an aerial ladder on it. And if that is the case, this guy's job was to be two things. He was to be a moderate pumper, or maybe a moderate engine in terms of water support, but it had a bigger job, which was to have a ladder that would be used to maybe rescue people from higher elevations that couldn't be reached by a regular ladder. This particular engine was actually one of the fire engines that I imagined was in Mara Beach. I probably mentioned that in the video, that was one of the engines from Mara Beach. Mara Beach also has its own fire engine and pumper, but that would be the extent of the entire Mara Beach department, maybe except for a chief's Jeep or something to that effect. But again, I wanted to pay homage to the set, but I also always had to make the engines appropriate for the video. So I did do a couple of modifications to that set. But to say that I didn't fall in love with it instantly would be a bold-faced lie. Now, and if you're wondering, oh, did you put the equipment in that one too? Yes, that rule still applied, as it applied to this gentleman here. And this, of course, is the third piece to the Neils Harbor department. I'm just going to raise up there. Sorry about the finger flash. This needed to be the fire engines that I know that are aerial units in cities, both small and large. They are equipment houses. That is their job, and they reach higher than standardized ladders. They are an aerial unit, an aerial rescue unit. They are an aerial firefighting unit. They spray water from high above. That is their job, but they're also a massive storehouse. We've got grappling hooks. We've got extra hoses. We have extra compartments. We filled this compartment, and I will turn this around, and I will show you. We have bull-sized lanterns. We have fire extinguishers. We have extra hoses. I wanted this to be a powerhouse of equipment, and I'll bring this on to show you. As you can see, there's a fire axe and a wrench in there. And of course, I fit all of this as well, which grappling hooks, flashlights, metal cutting saws, lights for firefighting at night, or just putting extra light on a situation you couldn't see into. I mean, smoke is very, very opaque, and sometimes you need to put some light on that so firemen can tell what they're doing. Specific picks, all those things. A breathing apparatus. One of the storage compartments on the other side of the vehicle has the tanks. I'll just throw that in as good measure. There's the head to the breathing apparatus, and it would be in the main storage compartment here. A little bit about 6004, the truck. How can I put this? It was a ladder truck for play, and you can see evidence of that here. But I just needed to make it beefier, so I took the chassis from that set, 60004, which of course is a fire station, and I just beefed it up. I wanted the ladder truck to be an imposing unit that showed that it was sort of the flagship of the station. It's the big unit. If this is responding, then you have a serious fire on your hands. This is not something that goes out to traffic accidents. This is not something that goes out to fight your local grass fire. And that's why I built it. And to be honest with you, I'm proud of this mock. It's maybe not perfect, but it looks mean and nasty, and that's what I was looking for. Something that was a little bit more powerful for my fire station. And I had a lot of fun making that little mock. And we'll pull that gentleman off. And as you can see, I had discussed this earlier, where because it was a bigger unit, I put in more equipment. The bigger the unit, the more diverse its equipment, because it would be asked to be on more difficult jobs, and some vehicles sort of had to carry that. I'm going to talk now about something rather simple. And this little fellow here, 60023. It was an introduction set. Loved the ambulance in that set. And I made a mock of another ambulance from other ambulances based on it, because it was just so something people could identify with quickly. This would be the ambulance you'd see. Well, in this set was this little truck, and I really wasn't sure what to do with it. It's quite plain. And what I decided in the end is that it was just a simple paramedic or rescue squad, quite light in terms of rescuing somebody, but it had the storage compartments, maybe to pull out the med kits you might need. And there'd be very light things inside, maybe an axe, maybe flashlights, things like that. There wouldn't be any heavy-duty equipment, but there are a lot of units like this that are a little smaller, and just a couple of firemen inside, and they go out on sort of different kinds of calls. But it basically made this kind of a rescue van. Its job to deal with medium and small problems, even a car accident, just maybe somebody maybe needing help getting out of the vehicle. I will tell you this, yes, I put up the equipment needed for each vehicle. It's inside the doors. I'm not actually going to show you all that equipment. You're getting the idea. It would be light. It would be another bandsaw, another couple of axes, and of course some medical boxes. Now, in the event that you are dying to know what a medical box looks like, I will happily get that for you and demonstrate it to you. It is this little fellow. I'm just going to pop right up there. Right? You see that little white and red thing? That's what a medical box is. It's essentially two 1x2 flat pieces with the little grating on top. I like the idea that maybe there was a blue box or a yellow box. I liked that idea of these gentlemen carrying around maybe rescue equipment, oxygen equipment, and so forth and so on. So that's how I did that. Moving on to another department, that actual rescue squad I had out of the city of Bingham. This unit was a lot closer. This unit was actually from the smaller town between sort of Rogan Island and Substance Island, a little town called Marksville. And they, of course, had their own aerial unit and pumper, and it was a very small station. And again, they probably had nothing more than a Jeep. But we saw that they would often, the communities would come together when the fire was major, like the cannery. They traveled the 20 or 30 minutes up the road and go help out their fellow community. Now, you're also, of course, coming to the full realization that this is part of another set that I just couldn't get enough of, 7239. I'll talk a little bit more about the other side of this set later, but I made some modifications in terms of the window, in terms of where the equipment was, And you might be asking, well, does this truck have all the same exact equipment as your aerial truck from Neils Harbor? Well, yes, but maybe just one piece less. This is an older truck. It might not be as modern and well equipped. Marksville is a smaller community. They would have had to buy a fire engine that was a little older, not quite up to the specs or the budget of Neils Harbor. And I really liked that idea of there being a different looking fire truck from a different time. So I just had to have this. It was just a mandatory that I had this set, and it really worked well. And you can probably go and do your research to see what small modifications that I did in fact make, but there weren't many. Just to sort of for cosmetic reasons, or again. Put some age into it by leaving equipment on the outside of the vehicle, which is not done these days. You're not going to find that kind of thing because it, of course, will wear and rust, and that's just not in the budget. But that's why I was trying to signify with equipment on the outside that, yes, this was from another time and from a smaller community. But and it was also that it looked great, so that was sort of important to me. Moving right along, I'm going to have to take this little friendly swivel table out of our way. I have to roll these next ones in. This was pure self-indulgence. There we go. And I don't have much to tell you here. There we are. You're going to understand. Oh, wow. That is a long unit. There we go. Can we even get him in there? There we go. He's so big he fills the whole table. There we go. What about this guy? Well, put it in a nutshell. Set 60112. I just liked it. I knew I'd never use it in a town of 5,000 people. I knew that there would never be a reason to have a hook and ladder truck. You're only going to find this in major cities, sort of millions of people. The only city in my entire fictional world that was like that was November. So I bought the set because I liked it, but I knew I'd throw it in there one day and just have it part of one of my videos. And this hook and ladder came from November. Traveled all the way up to Neils Harbor for their fire celebration day, which is a very unique thing in the guidance region, and all departments support it and are happy to bring one of their vehicles up to join in the parade and celebrate the service of the fire people in that community, especially on Substance Island, which is very much into the reforesting and farming of forests. They cut it down, but they plant it back immediately, and it's a very important part of the economy out there. So again, this was just for fun. I didn't modify it. I didn't see the point. I even left this sort of old style equipment there, and that was just for fun. And it was only going to be in a shoot for a couple seconds. I would literally pan over it, mention it, and move on. So I didn't see any point in nitpicking it down to specific details. So that is why we did that. So we're going to roll him down the road. And we're going to get into something slightly more complex, but you'll sort of see things all kind of tie together. By the time I was done creating all of my departments, I had a small problem. I had great pieces left over. I loved this rescue boat because, again, it harkened back to my own town. Part of the equipment in one of the fire stations just was one of these Zodiacs, and if the firemen needed to go rescue somebody on the water, they had that. And I just could not let go of that part of 7239. And I thought, well, it doesn't really make a lot of sense to stick it in the main fire station. It's already full of the, sort of the budget has already been laid out as to what can be in that station. And of course, you recognize, of course, this idea here, 7942, from being another set. Just a good little tough old truck. You'd think you'd see it bouncing down the roads with those big tires, rescuing or going somewhere. And I thought, well, let's combine the two. And I made, there's a fire marine program in November, of course. Marine units are those firecraft that are actually on the water. It's a division that you can go into and even become a marine diver for the fire department, and that means do some sort of scuba work and for under lakes and rivers and near the shore. So I like that idea that the fire department is designated by top of it, being a little bit white, designating that it was in fact a marine unit, and you can see sort of that white there. I thought that was a great idea, but why? what's it doing in the middle of Neils Harbor? Well, I realized Neils Harbor and the areas around a lot of tourist beaches. And the Coast Guard would have just so much money. And I'm sure that there was more rescuing needed than the Coast Guard could allot money to it. So the municipal marine unit around, they sort of decided to plant a couple men and a diver and a boat to the area. It was needed, and it was funded both on a municipal level, a regional level, and a federal level to bolster the rescue capabilities, if you like, of the Neils Harbor tourist area. And I'm going to sneak in here and grab my little man. And yes, he would have been hanging off the back too, and yes, he would have been strapped in, and he's safe, and don't worry, and it's all right. Everything's going to be all right. And that brings us to the last fire person, or fire boat, actually. This is, again, one of those sets where I knew I was probably not going to have, and I'm going to have to pan up a little bit here, I was not going to have, this boat is meant to take on major fires at the edge of the water. It is meant to put water on ships that are on fire. It is meant to rescue and handle big structural problems that are near the water. And of course, this boat is out of November. There is no debating that at all. Set 60109. And it appeared in the fire celebration video where the town came out to cheer on their fire people. And I put it near the dock, and people could go tour it and explore it as a piece of fire equipment that was nearby to them, but normally that they wouldn't see. And I knew that this was, again, just going to be a guest shot, just like the hook and ladder. But unfortunately, I'm weak. I see a set and go, that's a great set. I got to get into the videos. And this was what one of these sets were. And it wasn't a star of the show, but it's just all in fun. And I didn't see anything wrong with the set, so I left it as a straight build. You will notice that their uniforms are very much like the uniforms that just came off my other Marine unit. So yes, I kept uniforms consistent. If you were a Marine firefighter, you had the same uniform. If you were from Neils Harbor, you had the same uniform. If you were close by to Neils Harbor, you had the same uniform. And if you were from November, you probably had a nicer uniform. Well, I hate to break this to you fine folks, but I'm out of, oh no, wait, I lied. I have one more vehicle. And we're going to push that back. And you did see it in the parade. And this is, in fact, an airport fire truck meant to put the flames out on a crashed airplane, or a plane that has caught fire and has not crashed, but again, is to rescue and make sure, contain fire that might erupt from jet fuel or aviation fuel for a propeller-driven aircraft. Why wasn't it in my airport? It was a great set. It was an airport fire truck. Why did you buy the smaller yellow fire trucks for your airport? Well, see, this is what happened, folks. Saw this, loved it, bought it. Built my airport. Realized that it would take 5,000 extra bricks to get that thing inside my airport, especially 2 of them. Off scale, ridiculously big. Perfect in a major international airport in a capital city with a couple million people in it, like November. But it wasn't going to work for the airport that worked on the islands, which was, of course, in the city of Substance on Vista Island. The airport fire truck that I, in fact, chose there, and you can see, you can sort of pop that up. These gentlemen, again, have different uniforms, as you can see. And there's equipment for them in the back. You can see a helmet there in the back. That's what I did. I had to move on. I had to edit myself and make things to scale. And again, the trucks that came out of my local airport were small like that and yellow and appropriate for the size and the aircraft that they would be dealing with. This thing's for fighting probably a 737, a 747, something like that. Aircraft that big just weren't flying out of my local airport, so you didn't need an engine quite that large and ferocious as this, and is sort of updated and modern. And with a great deal more of water tank space and that sort of thing. So again, a straight set. I knew where this was going. I came up with the idea of the parade, and I said, well, at least they'll get to see one. And of course, I have 2 of them in my collection, and I didn't see any point in bringing out 2 of the vehicles to show you that. But I did want to show you that I didn't always get it right. A lot of times, I built fantastic sets that I loved that Lego had made, and I never got to use them. And sometimes they showed up for a few seconds. And we'll be talking a little bit more of that in future videos, where you'll see entire sets that, you know, oh, I saw him use that, but I didn't know he had 4 of those, and I certainly didn't know he had an entire police section out in the national park where all the rangers are. As we go on, you'll see sort of things like that, setups, and a couple of videos on that. Anyway, that takes care of our municipal fire department, and I'm really glad that video's over because it's very, very complicated, and I'm extremely long-winded. So that's the end of that, and I'm going to move on to the next video. And I think it just might be buildings this time. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to another vehicle thing with the Coast Guard. I don't know. But you'll know because you'll see the video. Thanks for watching. See you next time.